When I was 6 years old, my mom was pregnant with my sister, who did not make it. She was born premature. And I think during
Sorry.
that time, my mom went through depression. So I kind of got passed around from family member to family member, and a cousin sexually abused me. And honestly, I did not even remember that memory years later until I was in my early 20s in college. The I couldn't even remember it. And when it started to come out, that's when a lot of mental health issues started showing up, and I seeked help. My college had programs for counseling and things like that, but it wasn't really helping me. And what helped me get through that and continues to help me get through life is working out.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Iron Therapy. I'm Dave Palumbo, joined as always by my RxMuscle staff psychotherapist, Lesley Timbol, and our special guest today, Sumaiya Sarwar, who just turned pro in the wellness division. But that's not why we have her here. She has an unbelievable story she's going to share with us. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Now, I want to apologize. Very rarely do I have to apologize to people, but because I'm pretty on the ball. But for some reason, we were trying to get Sumaiya on the show, and things just kept popping up in my wheelhouse, and I had to cancel on you a few times. So I'm sorry about that, but I'm glad we got you here.
Well, it's okay. Things happen, holidays and New Year's, but we made it.
I lost my voice. I'm a big mouth, and I lost my voice on Friday. It's still not perfect, but I can speak now. So I figured I needed to have my voice at least. But anyway, I really want to hear from you guys. Lesley, you and I discussed, the story, and we said this is something that I think people really can be inspired by and learn by. Why don't you start off, Sumaiya, and tell us your story? Tell us where you came from and how you even got involved in the whole physique world.
So I was born and raised in Bangladesh, and I started working out when I was 6 years old because I survived sexual abuse by a family member. So food was my way of comforting. And in teenage years, I became sort of like anorexic, bad relationship with food. And I continued working out in college in my 20s. And I decided to start lifting weights just to make myself feel strong and feel safe so I can protect myself in case of any danger.
Yeah.
And along the way, I found bodybuilding and I started competing in 2018. Women's figure, switched over to wellness, and here we are.
Now, Lesley, is it pretty common among people who are abused, whether it be sexually or just physically or even emotionally, that they like to armor themselves up? I know a lot of male bodybuilders, have done that, and I assume it works the same for the women's division. What's the psychological component to that?
Once you've been taken down, you don't want to be taken down again. So you armor yourself. So for some people, they take self-defense courses. Other people will take certain types of sports. It could be powerlifting, it could be bodybuilding. So what Sumaiya is doing is really interesting. I did have a question about going from figure to wellness, though, Sumaiya, that you're saying that you started in figure. What made you want to transition into the wellness category?
Did you see those legs, Lesley?
Oh, they're very impressive.
Hold on, I got to put them up.
I think when I started taking lifting seriously in 2016, it was more to feel strong. So I was doing really heavy deadlift and leg press, and out came my quads. And they just kept growing and growing. And even competing in figure, I remember having to do so much cardio, but having difficulty just bringing down my legs and getting them shredded. I think one of the main reason I chose figure at that time is because I wasn't comfortable in my body and I couldn't see myself competing in bikini. Um, Coming from Muslim household, a very conservative culture in Bangladesh, certain required poses like the back pose or the walks, that for bikini and wellness that we have to do, I couldn't see myself doing that. So to me, figures seemed like more straightforward. You just go hit your front pose, side pose. And I worked on healing those parts of myself along the way when wellness division was announced. And I started to feel comfortable showcasing my work instead of feeling like I'm unsafe because there is some sassiness to certain poses, or people may look at me in a sexual manner and my safety may be jeopardized. I was able to separate that and look at it like I'm portraying my work, essentially presenting myself and my body as a work of art. And that was the switch in my brain into switching over to wellness.
What was the let's take a step back. First of all, I think you're the first pro from Bangladesh. Is that true?
Yep.
So congratulations. That's
Thank
kind
you.
of cool. That's very cool. Now, I just you kind of glossed over it, but I really didn't ask you about it. You said there was sexual abuse early in your childhood. Do you want to talk about it a little bit so that people know what you're talking about and exactly what was going on?
To be honest, when I was 6 years old, my mom was pregnant with my sister, who did not make it. She was born premature. And I think during that time, my mom went through depression. So I kind of got passed around from family member to family member, and a cousin sexually abused me. And honestly, I did not even remember that memory years later until I was in my early 20s in college. I couldn't even remember it. And when it started to come out, that's when a lot of mental health issues started showing up. And I sought help. My college had programs for counseling and things like that, but it wasn't really helping me. And what helped me get through that and continues to help me get through life is working out.
Right. It's unusual because and you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but I have a lot of people who are Indian friends and people from Bangladesh, and it seems like the cultures are such that families live together. There's a lot of family, so you wouldn't think that abuse would happen because there's so much family around, but I guess it could happen within the family. And were your parents or family members, did they believe you when you told them, or was it one of these no, it could never have happened or anything like that?
So I didn't tell my mom about this. This incident happened in 1996, and I probably started remembering this around 2011 or 2012. So I told my mom about this around 2016, and she was in denial. Her response was, "Why are you talking about this now? It's not going to make any difference. Leave it alone. You are bringing shame to the family." So it put a really bad, I don't know how to explain it. Me and my mother did not speak for years.
Right.
I moved out. And years later, I think after COVID is when me, my mom, my dad, we started to get closer again and work on the relationship. But till this day, I have received more compassion from my father than my mother.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because that was her brother's son. And she probably doesn't want to take accountability that she wasn't there. She was dealing with her own depression and she couldn't protect me. So accepting that is hard for her. So I don't, at this point, I don't need her to accept it for me to move on from it. I'm working on my own healing journey. And I'm able to look at her as a human being herself who was going through her own thing.
Lesley, is this a common theme usually in situations like this?
Yeah, whether in this case it was her mom, but definitely any parent that has a hard time accepting it, what they're also saying is, this couldn't have happened because it was under my watch. Because if it happened under my watch, that means I missed it. And as a parent, that's not, that means I failed at my job. And again, who wants to admit that they failed at their job? So it's just a lot easier for them to say, no, you probably misunderstood the situation, or that never happened, and gaslighting can happen. So, I mean, yes, that is a common thing, Dave, unfortunately. Also, the other unfortunate thing is a lot of sexual abuse more happens with people we know versus strangers.
Interesting. So to this day, you still haven't, has this been like an unresolved issue between you and your mother?
We don't talk about it.
Right. Does that bother you? I mean, does that bother you that she won't?
The thing is, I actually just moved back in with my parents.
Oh, wow.
This month. So it's been an adjustment, but I'm definitely understanding that we trigger each other and we have a lot of things to work through. As a adult and the first eldest daughter of the family, of an immigrant family, I do feel responsibility to succeed or to be at a certain level and take on some responsibilities for my parents, like be there for them and X, Y, and Z. But I am learning that at some point I have to let it go. They're their own human being. So I'm working on not depending on them to validate what happened to me.
Yeah, it's got to still be frustrating that, your mom wouldn't, acknowledge it and, apologize. But I guess, at some point, maybe Lesley, in your experience, does healing sometimes take years and years, like for people to like actually talk about situations like this?
They have to be ready to receive it, because one of the first things that comes into my mind is, if you need to, let's do a family counseling session with you and your mom. I'm putting that out there because there's going to be a lot of stuff that your mom is holding on to. And a big piece of that is ego, right? And being able to be vulnerable, again, admit when she's wrong. But there were circumstances that were leading her to that. It's not that she didn't love you. She was too caught up with her own stuff. And as her daughter, we want our parents to protect us. When they can't protect us, then we blame them. Now, here's the thing. Frankly, there was only one person at fault here. And it was the perpetrator. It was your cousin. So there's going to be a lot of unresolved issues as far as feelings that you have towards your mother, which makes sense, Sumaiya, but you're able to say, I don't necessarily need it to move on. It's kind of a nice to have, but it's not a have to have. But I think we could further help your healing process by learning how to, whether it's directly or indirectly, forgive your mom because of the circumstances she was in. Again, it doesn't make it right, but it just puts into context why she couldn't be there for you or give you that emotional support that you deserved.
My mother is a very traditional woman. She pretty much lived her whole life for other people. She got married off to my dad when she was like 19. Arranged marriage. I was born when she was 20. Till this day, I think she goes through life being a passive individual who looks at herself like she's the victim. And the relationship between her and my father is very toxic. And that is something I realized in myself that is what I tend to attract in a partner.
Don't we all, yeah.
So I guess I try not to take it that hard on my mother because I kind of feel sorry for her. In a way, I understand. And I'm like, I'm just working. I'm like, I don't want to make the same decisions that my mom did. I want to
Right.
create a different reality for myself. Um, so that's the way I look at it. I'm like, if someone has been in a dysfunctional marriage for 30 plus years, and when I go to her about my relationship issues, her response is like, just, just accept it, like work through it, turn the other cheek. I'm like, okay, that's not the life I want. Thank you. You know?
Is it hard to move back in with them? I have to imagine that it's not. I know I had to move back in with my dad years ago. Like when I was married like in the late 90s, and we got separated, and I had to move in with my dad for 6 months. I thought I was going to go crazy. So.
It's been a hard 2 weeks. I will tell you, it doesn't feel like 2 weeks. It feels like it's
Especially now that you just turned pro and you have all these aspirations, and it's like you don't want to be bothered with their dramas, right?
Yeah, especially the way that I eat a certain way, and
Right.
I've become very regimented last year.
Yeah.
And going back, I didn't realize how much protein I was eating compared to everybody else. My dad is like, I just bought groceries. I'm like, I know, but we're out of chicken breast already.
See, that's why she moved back in, Lesley.
There you go.
They're buying the groceries. That's what it is.
Honestly, yeah, to save up some money and
It's
to
expensive to live on your own. Yeah.
get myself situated. I did 3 shows last year, and it's expensive, especially doing national shows and everything. So
Right.
this first half of the year is to get my life in order, and then we will see what happens with doing a pro show or getting qualified for Olympia.
Does your family understand the whole bodybuilding thing, or are they like think it's like alien or something like that?
My mom is actually more understanding.
Oh, really? Okay.
She
That's good.
understands it, and I have shown her pictures of my shows and everything.
Mhm.
My dad is a bit more religious,
Okay.
so
He doesn't like the bikinis and all that stuff.
yeah. I did my first few check-in photos in my room, and I was like, it felt like a teenager again. I was like, is my dad out I'm doing something wrong? I'm like, I'm not doing anything wrong. Why does it feel like this?
What's the plan for the pro debut?
So my coach is IFBB Pro Dr. Sunny Andrews.
Okay.
We are looking at doing something in the summertime, like end of summer, August. I'm not ready to say which show yet. We'll see. It all comes down to, I'll be honest with you, my living situation.
Right.
And how I can adjust to all that.
What gym are you training at now in the Queens? She's in Queens.
I have been training at Coliseum Gym.
Oh, that's a good gym.
Yeah, it's 24 hours. That's where I started out back in 2018.
Right.
Home.
I guess you could always on the weekends go out to Bev's gym too. It's not too far from you. It's only a half hour.
Yeah. I go there when I catch a ride. I actually never ended up getting my driving license.
Oh, you got to get your license. That's called independence, right, Lesley?
Oh, 100%. Yes.
I mean, you can kind of live without it in New York because there's so much to train always.
I know, but you know what? There's nothing. The freedom of having a car is something you can't put a price tag on. I don't know.
That's the goal this year. By springtime.
I hear you. Look, New York is very expensive to live in too. I mean, it's not cheap. Florida is much cheaper.
Now that you mention it, I have been talking about moving to Florida or Texas for a few years now. So that might happen too. We'll see.
You got to find like a good friend who could be like your roommate and like just split all the expenses and just get out of there. I told my sister, ironically, my sister was living with my dad, and they just butting heads. This is when she was in her like 18 to 20. I said, it doesn't matter what. If you spend every last dime that you have, you cannot live with him. I said, your relationship with him will be much better if you don't live with him. Yeah. And she moved out, and she actually moved right where you're living in Queens there. And because I used to go to her apartment and visit her. And you know what? Her relationship improved. She started making a lot more money, and she was so much happier and free that she actually prospered because she wasn't like under his, reign of terror there in the house, So, the parents are set in their ways, and they just can't be flexible. They've been doing this the whole life. You need to have your own freedom. What do you think about that, Lesley? My advice there.
Oh yeah, I love your advice. Having freedom, including a car, your own place, or share your place outside of your parents, 100%. Your life will be so much better.
Yeah.
I think from 2020, now, like the past 3 years, I didn't even realize that I became so fearful, anxious, and kind of codependent on the people in my life. And last year, doing the shows back to back to back kind of taught me to start to get out of my cocoon. And who knows, maybe in 3 months, 6 months, I'll be down in Florida, because that's why I kind of moved back to save up a little bit and start fresh somewhere.
Lesley, speak to this, because I'm not an expert, so I want you to speak to this. Obviously, there's this unresolved issues, obviously, still with her mother and stuff like that. Is it good for her to be in that environment with the mother in the same household, or is it better that she not be in that household in terms of healing and moving forward from there? Based
on my knowledge, she needs to be where she is for a short period of time. Then when the first opportunity presents itself or she can create it, she'll be out of there. So it's basically fulfilling a purpose right now. Right. So it's manageable. And Sumaiya, I don't know if you had a chance to talk to your parents about putting any boundaries in. I don't know if they're respectful of you putting boundaries in, but hopefully you've had some type of discussion as far as expectations on everyone's part. Has that happened yet?
I had that before moving in. However, just within the first week of me staying there, I had 3 blowouts with my father.
Okay. How old are you now?
Me?
Yeah, how old?
34.
Oh, okay. You're not a young kid. Yeah, it's hard when you get older. It's harder to live with your parents, I think.
It's because I tried to set boundaries. That's why he's not used to me being like, Dad, I just came from work as well. I'm not ready for you to kind of like dump all your problems right now. Like, I need to refill my own cup and set aside time, and we can connect during the weekend. When you have off, I have off. How about we go have lunch together? But I think a lot of South Asian parents, since they grew up without having any say, and there's this mentality like family, you have to be there for them all the time. There's no saying no. He took it like I'm rejecting him. So, yeah.
I think bodybuilding is perceived as it is to a certain degree, but it's definitely perceived by other people as a very selfish sport, right? Yeah. Plus, you're working. What do you do for a living?
So I actually was just doing personal training, online coaching. Okay. But I picked up like literally a minimum wage 40-hour job. This is my rock bottom. Yeah. I hit the height of getting a pro card, and then in reality, my life, I'm at the rock bottom again, working on building myself back up.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? There's no guarantees. I always tell people, just because you have a pro card doesn't mean you're going to make a living, and so there are people who don't have pro cards that do very well financially, but so I think, a lot of people think that if I get the pro card, I'm going to be all set. And a lot of times it's like you're starting over again, really, because now you're at the low man on the totem pole, so to speak.
Yeah. I feel like I'm just at a different, like I mastered one level, but now I'm at the bottom of another level, and I'm starting all over again, the process.
Lesley, we've talked about this before in other shows where people, think that they achieve a certain level of something, and then it's almost like a post-show depression. And what kind of, tools can you give Sumaiya to deal with some of that little depression that's going on now, maybe the low she's at?
Well, one thing is when you're at the bottom, there's only one direction to go. So, and then the other thing is to kind of remember what got you to the point when you were on that first level to get up. You still have those tools put some kind of routines in place to, repeat some of that so you can repeat that success. That can be certain, like I said, the routines, not just the eating and the diet. What about your social support system? That's really key. If you need professional supports, there's professional supports out there. So it's trying to, as far what let's say stress management techniques, if you're having kind of anxiety, if you're having problems with sleeping, what kind of things do you have in place, or what needs to be put into place to help you navigate going from, even though you're at the next tier, you're at the bottom of that tier. How do you get up? You can always level up. Even the best of the best can still level up. So there's hope in the respect of, hey, you got to one kind of like level. That means you can definitely make it to another level because it's already in you. You've already proven that.
Thank you.
My take on this whole thing is that you've accomplished so much coming from Bangladesh, having that past that you did, beating eating disorders, which we didn't even discuss yet, and then actually being able to not only like win shows but win your pro card. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. I think if you kind of focus on those positive accolades that in your life, I think that's going to take you to a higher place, as opposed to, right now you're in a temporary,
Feels like I'm
you're in a
going
holding pattern right now. That's all. But you're going up. Your trajectory's up.
And what you were saying, Dave, if I can just piggyback off this,
Yeah.
I would want to give to you, Sumaiya, as kind of like some homework, so to speak, is to create what I call a confidence resume. So, and I don't know if I mentioned this on the show before, but so a resume typically has to do with your job, your basically your job experience, where you went, how long you were there, what you did. A confidence resume is what you achieve, not just your pro card, but it's overcoming all these hurdles, even the current hurdles of still, you know what? Even though this is not comfortable, I'm where I am. I'm trying to negotiate something with my parents. It is a challenge, but I'm doing it. Every kind of accomplishment goes in there. And when you have this confidence resume, and you can add on to it over the years, you reflect back on it. Because sometimes we forget all the good stuff that we've accomplished. We think, that was in the past. We still got through it. We need to capitalize on, it's easy to focus on what we don't have. Think about what you do have, what you have accomplished. So I really want you to work on a confidence resume. And if you need help with that, let me know.
Thank you. I will definitely take you up on that. I didn't even think about it, but you were so right. Like one of the things that held me back for a long time was procrastination, anxiety, and then I would go into the cycle of like being depressed because I didn't achieve what I said I was going to do. And that's something I really mastered last year, doing these shows back to back, and that's something I'm very proud of. And I'm gonna make that list, and I'll run it by you. I'll definitely send it over.
But what you're experiencing is not uncommon, and the reason why that's why I bring it up. I work with a lot of people, and I know a lot of people. They get that pro card, they work so hard, they're so driven. I mean, and they go 6 months, 8 months on the diet, and they do 4 shows in a row, and they get their pro card, and then it's like, what now? And now I'm starting over, and if they get depressed almost, and then they don't even have any motivation to go to the gym. And I'm like, what are you doing? You look what you just accomplished. But it's a letdown because the high is so high that you can only come down from that high. And that's just normal. And you know what? That will happen over and over. If you win a pro show, it'll happen after the pro show win. You'll be like, now what? It's so that's life, and I think that people have to understand that, not everyone gets a pro card. Not everyone wins a pro show. Not everyone goes to the Olympia. Not everyone can win the Olympia. But if you achieve those, you have to then say, okay, this is part of the process. I have to redo the whole process over again. And you can't let that drop in energy level, I guess, negatively affect you. So.
I feel like I'm questioning my own identity a lot, because I looked at this goal like, okay, I'm going to be the first Bangladeshi IFBB Wellness Pro. And I was probably under the assumption that I will get some sort of validation or celebration from my family, from my community. But none of that has happened, which brought me back to reality of being like, hey, be proud of yourself for what you have achieved. And don't get the community to clap for you, or for your parents to be like, hey, I'm finally proud of you, achieved something.
Yeah.
And that kind of brought me back to reality.
But here's another piece of reality I don't want you to lose out on. Because of your social media presence, and as you the more and more you compete, more and more you're going to get more and more eyeballs. You are going to impact a lot of people that you may never meet and you will never know. Some fans might basically message you and say, hey, you know what? I saw you on whether it be Iron Therapy or whatever show, and we heard your story. You are very inspirational. You're the reason why I'm competing now, or you're the reason why I'm doing this. You don't know how many people's lives you're touching.
Yeah, you'd never really know because a lot of people won't say anything, So, you're definitely inspiring people, and I think that's what Leslie's trying to say. You just don't know it. I sometimes look, if you look at the comments on all our videos, you would think that everyone hates me out there, right? Because those are the people who post. But I have so many people come up to me in stores and on the street, in the gym, telling me how much I help them, and that they watch everything I do, and that validates you. And once you start getting that kind of validation, you'll realize that you do touch the lives of a lot of people, because I'm sure there are women that have gone through what you've gone through. I'm sure there's women in Bangladesh that will watch this interview and be super inspired by it. And so maybe a trip there might help. Maybe you can find like someone who does a local show there. Maybe they want to bring you in as like a celebrity, person to do a seminar or something like that. I mean, that's might be something you look into, because you'll probably be more appreciated over there because of what you accomplished and the fact that you're a role model to these people who compete over there.
I actually haven't been back since 2005.
I think it's time. You got to hook up with some promoters over there.
I'll look into it. I think I was afraid to go back.
Oh, it would be great. I think you'd be very well received. I mean, come on. If you're the only pro from the whole country, I mean, I would imagine that if you went to a bodybuilding show, that you would be a celebrity in a sense. Look how they receive Hadi Chupin when he comes home, or Ramy when he comes home. It's like they're national heroes.
The thing, I think what I fear is the religion.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Islamic country. And there is, I don't know if it still happens, there is something called honor killing.
Oh,
and
really?
The rules are not the same for male versus female. Male bodybuilders are celebrated.
Gotcha.
Females are looked at more like, why are you objectifying yourself? Why are you?
Interesting.
So a lot of times when people look at me, they don't necessarily see my work ethic. They are seeing my body as something to objectify. So that's one of the reasons, like now, after that, I'm getting a little bit of recognition, I'm more fearful to go back.
Are there women who compete over there, though?
I personally only know of one female Bangladeshi bodybuilder who competes in natural shows in women's figure.
Right.
But they're all here in America. And I know,
interesting. Wow.
Yeah, not like
there might be there's a reason for that, obviously. No one's competing over there. They're all coming to the United States to compete. Yeah, so
we'll see.
Yeah, maybe you could do. Do you speak the language?
Yeah, I speak Bangla.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe you could do diets for people over there, which might be good because you can do that online. You know what I mean?
I am like thinking about it. I'm taking my YouTube more seriously. So
you should take my diet guru course, on how to become a diet guru, because I educate people on how to be a coach, essentially diet, supplementation, PEDs, off-season, pre-contest, men, women. It's like going for a college degree in how to be a coach in 8 hours, essentially. So you might enjoy that. Yeah, you might enjoy that. It might be good relevant. Lesley, final thoughts on the whole story and where you see the future to this leading.
Well, I think she's got a great future. She doesn't even realize it yet, but you and I know, because we've talked to many people in the industry.
Yeah,
you've got a great future, Sumaiya, and you are, like I said, you are touching people's lives, because a lot of people will have eating disorders that are still struggling with these eating disorders and are still competing. And how they might be saying, well, how do I manage this? Because let's say when the show's done, I'm still having issues with the eating piece.
Mm-hmm.
you're able to show people that you can compete and take control of your body through exercise and nutrition. It does require a lot of discipline. It does require accountability. If there might be something missing in your formula, if you're not able to do that. Also, how do you boost self-confidence and your self-esteem? Seeing physical progress and improvements in strength can absolutely do that for anybody. I mean, this can be males or females. We're just talking about people in general. Bodybuilding in general requires a strong connection between the mind and the body. This can carry you really far. And for people who've had, let's say, issues with, their body issues in any kind of format, when you promote a self-awareness and a positive relationship with your own body, it can help you reconnect your physical self to your physical self in a healthier way. Obviously, the bodybuilding lifestyle, guess what? You're going to meet other bodybuilders. You get social support. We all know that a lot of times people outside of our world, so to speak, will look at us as weird freaks, right? Because it's kind of like, you do that, why would you do that to your body? Why would you willingly do, suffer or whatever? Well, everyone's got their own kind of shtick, and that's our shtick, but it's healthier than compared to other people. But I think, setting and achieving any kind of goal, it can reshape our perception of our bodies as strong, capable, and deserving of care. And that's what you're doing. And you're showing everybody it can be done, which is awesome. And I want to just make sure that message goes out to everybody. That mind and body connection, we talk about it in training. It goes on the mental level on so many different levels. And this will help you with your success, not just in if you do a sport, but also personally as well.
Thank you so much. I needed to hear that. Like, talking to both of you today, I'm feeling a lot better and a lot more hopeful about what's to come.
And if anyone out there, any sponsors want to, reach out and offer you a sponsorship, you never know who's out there and saying, you know what, that's the perfect person. That's who I want, representing my company. What's the best way to get in touch with you? Through your Instagram?
Yes, Instagram, and my website is also linked there.
Okay.
Receive all the emails directly.
Guys, if you're looking for a great representative, you got one sitting right here. Well, thank you for being so candid and honest and sharing your story with us today. And once again, congratulations on winning that IFBB Pro card in the wellness division. When will we see you on a pro stage?
Sometime this year.
All right.